Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. And today's video, we'll be doing a review on Resident Evil Village, so let's get into it. So Resident Evil Village takes place directly after Resident Evil 7, and you follow the story of Ethan Winters, who narrowly escaped the chaotic events of Resident Evil 7. And so trying to readjust to normal life, him and his wife have a child, Rose, and now they're just trying to deal with the traumatic events that happened during Resident Evil 7. Unfortunately, at the start of this game, his wife is shot, Ethan is kidnapped, as well as Rose, his daughter, and they are taken to this remote village, which is teeming with crazy monsters, and you go on a journey as Ethan to try and rescue Rose and uncover the mystery of what's going on in this village. And so in this game, unlike typical zombies like many of the Resident Evil games, you're fighting even more unique creatures, and many of the people in this village are lycans, or basically werewolves, but I think they did a good job of tying it into the Resident Evil universe, because in the Resident Evil world, they always are using genetic experiments on people, making bioweapons, and so they basically combine this bioweapon with wolf DNA, which led to these lycans or werewolf creatures. And so I thought that was really cool. But then there's also really 4 key leaders within this village, and they all have their own unique, terrifying abilities. And one of the ladies is kind of like a giant vampire, so I thought that was cool as well. Now the gameplay itself returns to the first-person shooter view, similar to Resident Evil 7. And for me, I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I really enjoy the third-person perspective. That was my favorite change to the Resident Evil series when Resident Evil 4 came out, when they swapped to that third-person perspective instead of the bird's eye view tank controls. And I don't necessarily mind the first-person view. I think it makes sense, especially with Capcom doing a lot of the virtual reality and VR versions of the Resident Evil series. It probably wouldn't work that well if it was a third-person shooter in that respect. But let me know in the comments below how you guys feel. Do you prefer the third-person shooter view or the first-person view? I'm still kind of torn which one I like best. I definitely enjoy in the third-person Resident Evil games when zombies will grab onto you and you have to shake them off with your controller. I think that really adds to the intensity of the game, where in the first-person version, they just kind of jump onto you, the controller rumbles, it's kind of a mini cutscene, and then you take damage and they jump off. So for me, it's a little less intense that way. Not the end of the world, but let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about that. Now, a lot of other cool elements from previous Resident Evil games, they did bring back to this game, which I loved. And so it really reminded me of Resident Evil 4, which is one of my favorite games in the whole series, because you're able to earn money throughout the game, which you can spend at a shopkeeper to upgrade your weapons, buy new supplies, get blueprints, which you can use for crafting from items you find throughout the game. And there's even like a restaurant portion of the shop where you're able to find different meats from animals throughout the village to use to create dishes that permanently boost various aspects of your stats. And so I thought that was really cool, as again, that was one of my favorite parts within Resident Evil 4 was that RPG element, and so that made a return in this game, and I was definitely really happy to see that. The game itself is pretty dark, and so you'll go through places like a mansion, a weapons factory, going throughout the village. And so the first aspect of the game when you're going through the vampire lady's mansion really reminded me of the original Resident Evil when you're going through the mansion, so I thought that was cool. And then as you go through other aspects of the village, it's pretty creepy and terrifying, and I think it was a great vibe for the whole game. A lot of parts throughout the game really blend gameplay with the cinematics, and so there really isn't a cut in the action at all, so I thought that was really cool, and I think they did a great job of doing that. The storyline is pretty crazy in Resident Evil fashion, and they actually tied it in to the early Resident Evil games as well, which I thought was really awesome. Where I kind of felt like when I played Resident Evil 7, I was like, how does this even fit into the Resident Evil universe? And they finally tied that back in within this game, so I thought that was really awesome. On your first playthrough of the game, if you're playing on normal mode, it's probably going to take you around 10 hours, so it's not super long, but once you beat it that first time, you'll unlock more difficult versions of the game that you can play. You'll also unlock a Mercenaries Mode, which is kind of a challenge mode for the game, where you'll have set missions that you go through, where you need to go through and kill so many enemies within a time limit. And you start off with pretty basic equipment, but you'll earn money throughout each run that you can then use to buy better equipment and see if you can progress through the various stages. So I think it's a fun challenge mode that you can take on after you beat the game. And so that was really cool. So after you beat the game for the first time, you find out that there's different challenges that you could have done throughout the game, and that gives you points that you can then use to unlock hidden items for future playthroughs. So again, you might unlock unlimited ammo for a specific weapon. You might be able to buy new weapons that you can use through that second playthrough, and the list kind of goes on and on. And so it'll give you more replay value to the game because you might unlock infinite ammo for some guns and miss out on others, and you want to go back through and unlock those, and you kind of get like a new game plus mode, which is nice. And then you can even try it on a harder difficulty to see if you can make it through that way. One thing that I did find that was a little frustrating is that there are some secrets that you can actually miss out on your first playthrough. So when I mentioned that food cooking element within the shopkeeper store, you can actually miss out on fish, for example, through some parts of the game. And I thought you'd be able to go back through to older areas if you needed to, but that actually wasn't the case. So you can permanently miss out on things. So that was a little bit frustrating for me. But again, not a deal breaker, but just something to be aware of, that you really want to search out and find the secrets within the game as you go through. Now there is a cool aspect with the map feature where when you're in a room, if you haven't found all of the secrets, it's marked as red, but then once you find everything, it turns to blue. And so if you are a completionist like me and you're looking for every little secret, that's definitely helpful because you can see that there is aspects still hidden in a room. So you can search around, find little gems hidden on the walls you need to shoot off, and much, much more. Overall though, I really enjoyed this game. I think it's one of the best in the Resident Evil series. It's a lot of fun. It ties back into the original storyline a lot more than Resident Evil 7 did, and I really enjoyed that element to it. The graphics are phenomenal. I love that they returned to more of the RPG elements that Resident Evil 4 had, and it was definitely a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a new survival horror game, I definitely recommend Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 8. And it's definitely worth adding to your nerd library. But let me know in the comments below, how do you guys feel this game stacks up? How would you rank it within the Resident Evil universe? Do you like this Ethan Winter storyline compared to maybe a Chris Redfield or a Leon Kennedy or a Claire Redfield storyline? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button as it really helps out the channel. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. If you'd like to help support the channel, pick out content and more, become a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us over on Twitch at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.